This video is sponsored by Backbone. I have always wondered what it's like to play Stardew Valley on mobile. I've played hundreds of hours on my Switch and over 1,000 hours on my PC, but today we are going to be playing our first 100 days in Stardew Valley Mobile to see how different it actually is. As always, I will have some goals for the playthrough, and seeing as it's all about mobile and hence mobility, I want to get myself a horse, unlock the minecarts around town, unlock the bus to the desert, get a real phone for my house, and our ultimate goal and last method of transportation will be to fix the boat to Ginger Island. With all that out of the way, let's get right into it. My name's Charlie, this is Mobile Farm, and my favorite thing is being a little goblin. No, it's Steve Jobs. My bad. My favorite thing is Steve Jobs. And really quick, if you enjoy these types of videos, maybe consider subscribing. I don't know. But alright, without further ado, let's dive into it. From the get-go, I could tell Stardew Mobile was gonna be a drastically different experience. Okay, whoa, the inventory is on the left side. Okay. Movement alone was super janky because you had to tap where you wanted to walk, so I tippy-tapped to my parsnips and opened them up. It was weird, to say the least. The gameplay was hard to get used to and all the menus were different. Like, just watch me struggle. What a sad sight. But I figured I'd get the hang of it eventually, so I headed on outside. How do I use... Oh. So I just tap? Eventually, I managed to clear out a plot of land and then headed into town, but the learning curve was real. Like, I was playing the same exact game, but things felt so much harder. How does one, like, hold the phone when you're... Ooh, artifact. Nice. Like, I can't find a comfortable position. I feel like such a boomer. What the heck? Since we'd be waiting until the mines opened, I explored around town, scrounging through garbage cans, and then struggled through my first interaction with the locals. Oh. Okay. Oh, this is so bad. But you know, I wasn't here to make friends. To attain all things mobile, I needed money fast. And what better way to make money than some good old clay farming? Oh no, this is gonna be really hard. Okay. Yeah, the thing is, I can barely clay farm in normal Stardew, but with the tap to walk mechanic in the mobile version, it is so hard to tell what you're actually hitting. There. Ooh, okay. But gradually, I started to get the hang of things. You know, I'm a bit of a Stardew pro, if I do say so myself. I still don't know how to hold the phone, but I can clay farm, so that's something. With a handful of clay in my pocket, I continue to discover all sorts of new fun things about Stardew Mobile. Whoa, I can... Oh, I can zoom out? That makes this so much... Wow. 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 Look at me. Arriving home, I realized it would probably be a good idea to get my parsnips planted. I must say that it feels like the tool usage is so much faster. Except planting seeds. This is very cumbersome. And after doing some watering... Okay, and I think that's our first day. That's a wrap. Let's move our bed to the... Nope, okay, we'll just get in it. All right, perfect. Since I chose the hilltop farm for this playthrough, I decided to put the quarry to good use, demolishing some rocks before doing my daily foraging. Soon, though, I found myself with basically no energy, which presented another problem. How do I eat? I tried tapping on the spring onions, even tried dragging them to my mouth, which didn't work in the slightest. I finally figured it out, but the entire ordeal was so exhausting that I just headed home, unloaded my inventory into a chest, and sold a couple forageables for some easy dollars. Money was pretty much our primary goal, and to start, I would need $2,000 for the phone, so I spent all of day 3 fishing, bringing in a bunch of fish and a decent amount of cash. I did the same the next day, but I must say, the Stardew mobile fishing is actually pretty intuitive because it's just tapping your finger and it opens up a lot of opportunities for snacking with your non-fishing hand. In fact, I spent all of day 4 munching on fruit leather, and all of this distracted fishing got me to fishing level 2. Our fishing adventures were on hold for now though, because it was day 5, which meant we were adopting a pet. I gladly accepted this little cat, and since we were playing on mobile, I decided to name it iPhone. With a new cat in tow, I harvested all of my parsnips, which, by the way, is pretty satisfying on a touchscreen, and then headed to the mines, eager to test out what the combat was like. I claimed my sword for Marlin and was offered a choice I had never seen before in Stardew. Oh, auto attack? Yes, I would like to do very little work. I had no idea what auto attack was or how to use it. I'm confused. Let's go look at the slime. I'll like click on the slime. Oh, that's so broken. It can't even touch me. Wait, I just realized you don't have to switch manually between tools. You can just click the thing and it... Yeah, the tools switch automatically. Now I just feel like a fool. I continued down the mines, and you know that thing I said earlier about how the auto attack is so broken the slime can't even touch me? Yeah, I take that back. It's incredibly difficult when multiple enemies are attacking, like honestly kind of impossible. But after taking a beating, I managed to reach floor 15, which felt like a good place to finish for the night. Since I'd been using my parsnips as a food source, I decided to head to Pierre's for some crops that would ensure a bigger profit, buying 14 cauliflower seeds, and then dropping off some minerals at the museum to get 9 more. With my chores in town finished, I headed home and crafted up a farm supervisor to protect my newly planted cauliflower, ending off the day lake fishing for some additional income. By the end of our first week, I had already headed to Clint's and bought the copper axe upgrade, but the real goal was to get it upgraded to iron so we could start collecting hardwood for the horse stable. So, in anticipation of this, I headed back to the mines and continued making my way down to the iron levels. But for real though, the auto attack mechanic in Stardew Mobile is so broken, and like not in a good way. Combat is in my opinion one of the most involved and exciting parts of the game, but here I am, fending off a swarm of bugs without even moving a finger. And as the enemies get harder, you either let the auto attack do everything for you and die, or you actually try to play and then also just die. You can't win. Despite all of my grievances about this feature, I struggled through the next couple days and then picked up my copper axe from Clint's. At this point, I still hadn't managed to reach the iron levels of the mines, and honestly my pickaxe was a bit of a roadblock, so I decided to finish off the day by smelting copper bars for the pickaxe upgrade. With a grand total of 6 copper bars, I spent like 4 business days trying to take only the 5 I needed with me, and then made my way to Clint's, grabbing a trash flounder on the way. I quickly realized though that I didn't have the money to actually pay for the upgrade, and after selling off some gems and doing some fishing, I scraped together the $2,000 that I needed. With $21 to my name and a cockle on my head, I ran around town in search of anything that might make me some money, and miraculously, I came across almost 30 spring onions. Like, hello? That is so many. Grateful to the RNG gods, I sold them all, bringing me to foraging level 2, fishing level 3, and out of a penniless little life. While I waited on my pickaxe upgrade, the only way to make money was to fish, so I headed straight to the beach, and with all the fish I had caught and sold to Willie, I actually managed to make enough for the fiberglass rod, which was a real win in my book. Admittedly, I ended off the day even poorer than the last, but with an upgraded fishing rod and a copper pickaxe on the way, I was actually making pretty swift progress. But there was a letter waiting in my mailbox the next morning, and when I opened it, I realized... oh, the egg festival is gonna be so hard. Oh, no. Yeah, I had not planned for that. Losing to Abigail on mobile would be the biggest slap in the face, but there wasn't much I could do to prepare, so I went on with my day, picking up the upgraded pickaxe from Clint's and then heading straight to the mines. By the end of the day, I had finally managed to make it to the frozen levels, but at that point, I'd already run out of energy, so I did the responsible thing and took the long, slow walk home. And after psyching myself up in the mines for the better part of the morning, I headed into town. Okay, it's egg festival time, and I'm actually, like, horrified. I'm not gonna talk to anybody because I simply don't care about making relationships. Can you please? Ooh, I'm gonna buy as many strawberry seeds as I can because I really need money. Okay. I'm not even gonna waste my time. Lewis, get it going. I'm actually so nervous. Let the egg hunt begin. Oh, this is so hard. Grab the egg! Oh my god, this is freaking... I've lost already. I was having a great time. I hate this. Like, the egg hunt already isn't easy, and moving around with a touchscreen makes it so much harder. Abigail is... oh no. I forgot this one. I'm gonna lose. Pick it up! Honestly, I struggled every step of the way. Pick up the eggs! This is so bad. This is so bad. I'm actually like getting my face is like burning. Pick up the egg. How do you guys live? I am gonna lose my mind. I don't even know if I won. I was just stressing. Now the winner of this year's egg hunt. Charlie! Oh my gosh, even though it is so much harder on PC, you know, I always win. I always win the egg hunt. And with my victory secured, I offered my honest review of the egg hunt on Stardew Mobile. That was actually horrific. Like, it was impossible to pick up the eggs. I would not repeat that experience again if I was paid to do it. So yeah, not the most glowing review, but I did get my straw hat, so I'll just take the dub. It was raining the next day, so with my cauliflower and strawberries taken care of, I headed back to the mines, and a horde of bats brought me down to half health, and this single slime was almost the end of me. I must say, the thing I hate most about this is the auto combat. Please, I beg. Just don't kill me. Like, I have no control. Ooh, okay. I just want to get to floor 50. I held on to dear life, and eventually... Ooh... And I got some booties! Yay! When I got home, I crafted 3 more furnaces, and the ore I'd collected was enough to get me 4 iron bars. The iron axe upgrade was still my #1 priority though, and with only 1 bar left to get, I headed back to the mines, making it down 10 floors and collecting 64 pieces of iron in the process, which I smelted into bars for my visit to Clint's the next day. With all the mining I'd been doing and the combat that auto attack was doing for me, I managed to reach level 4 mining and level 2 combat. Day 16 started out a little rougher than expected because as I was watering my strawberries, I ran into a bit of a problem. It won't let me water this strawberry because the cat is there. iPhone, can you please move? Remove yourself. Get out of here. Get out of here. Shoot. Okay, thank goodness. But with my 5 iron bars ready to go, I headed into town and finally got the community center cutscene. It was a great opportunity to check out the building I'd be soon turning into a brand new JoJo warehouse. As soon as I made it to Clint's, I realized I was $4,000 short on my axe upgrade, so I ran around looking for forage to sell, even picked up Robin's axe, but unfortunately, I just couldn't scrape together enough money. So instead, I headed, you guessed it, back to the mines, finding a diamond and reaching floor 65. I spent all of day 17 fishing at the mountain lake for money, and for some reason, at one point the sound of the fishing reel just wouldn't stop playing. And after a successful day of fishing, I returned home to the sweet sounds of the fishing rod reeling and sold all my fish for a pretty sizable profit. And side note, apparently the fishing rod sound was some kind of rare glitch, and I actually had to restart the entire app to get rid of it, so that was very fun. But the profits only continued because my cauliflower were ready to harvest. With all the money I'd made from yesterday's fishing and 5 iron bars in hand, I headed to Clint's and got our final axe upgrade going. After that, I went to Pierre's to sell my cauliflower for some quick cash and then went to Robin's to buy the phone. And I mean, just like that, we had finished off one of our main goals for this 100 days. I spent the rest of the day fishing for money, hoping to make enough so that we could get ourselves signed up for a JoJo membership tomorrow. If we wanted to unlock the minecarts, the bus stop, and especially the boat to Ginger Island, this was unfortunately the only way to do it. And just my luck, as I began fishing, the reeling sound started again and just continued into the evening. Crazy enough though, I managed to snag a dinosaur egg in a treasure chest, which was honestly so lucky. And I would definitely be getting a coop to hatch this little guy. I walked home yet again to the sweet sounds of the rod reeling and then set down my phone and gave Marnie a call at 11 p.m. You know, just good neighbor behavior. At the ripe hour of 6:30 a.m. the next morning, I decided to give Clint a call too, just for fun, and he told me my axe would be ready tomorrow. Also, Clint, are you good? What is this clank clank? Why does your phone make these noises? I mean, honestly, I shouldn't be talking because my fishing reel got stuck again. The fishing reel just kept going as I bought my JoJo membership, during a quick house redesign, and even in the mines. Like, I may just have to return this thing to Willy. Why is it literally so faulty? As Clint had promised the day before, my steel axe was ready to pick up, but there was actually another far more important tool that I would be adding to this playthrough. And that is thanks to the incredibly cool sponsor of this video, Backbone. If you don't know what the Backbone is, it's essentially an accessory that converts your phone into a gaming console. It is amazing. I mean, look at this thing. Straight out of the box, you just stretch it apart, snap your phone in, Apple or Android, and you are good to go. In all honesty, the Backbone made this playthrough possible. Like, I almost gave up. That is not a joke. For one, apps like Stardew Mobile, where the touchscreen controls are clunky and unintuitive, become infinitely easier. And number 2, the Backbone app is so freaking good. It allows you to play both mobile apps on your phone or console and PC games remotely with cloud gaming. So if someone else is using the TV, you can just snap your phone in and you're good to go. And you can even charge your phone or plug headphones in while you're using it. Like, when I figured this out, it literally blew my mind. You know, I only accept sponsors that I use and believe in, and let me tell you, I spent over 60 hours with this thing, using it day in and day out, and I can let you know it is legitimately fantastic and well worth the money. You can go ahead and get one yourself at playbackbone.com or click the link in the description down below. And with that, let's get back to it. Oh my gosh, all those hours of suffering for what? And I can do the combat myself. Oh, thank goodness I can finally... Oh, I don't have to deal with auto combat anymore. After gathering a bunch of hardwood, I decided to do some more fishing to work toward getting the $10,000 I needed for the stable. The next morning, I awoke to Demetrius on my doorstep asking if I wanted bats or mushrooms in my farm's cave, and of course, I had to go with fruit bats. Because apple. Get it? And then guess what, folks? I did some more fishing as Abigail watched creepily. And I know I'm doing a lot of this nonsense, but most of our goals were actually super dependent on money. We needed 10,000 for the stable, 15,000 for the rail carts, and a whopping 40,000 for the bus. And I had, not that much money. I mean, I started day 23 with $7,000 to my name, so I took some geodes to Clint's in the hopes of getting something valuable, but when I got there, the game crashed. I figured my phone was mad at me and it was karma or something, so I made sure to water iPhone the cat to appease the spirit of Steve Jobs or whatever before heading back to Clint's. And the money from those geodes combined with the fish I caught that night ensured that on the morning of day 24, we finally had our $10,000. I was super excited to purchase the horse stable, but after doing some fishing at the river, I had an upsetting realization. Today was the flower dance. We'd barely spoken to anyone up to this point, which meant we had no date, but that's just the life of an entrepreneur, am I right? In any case, I took the festival as an opportunity to finally introduce myself to everyone, and after a swift rejection from Elliot, I sadly stood in the corner as everyone danced. I laugh, but inside I weep. With that event over and done with, it was back to work, and that meant finally getting the stable built. I headed to Robbins and began construction next to the entrance of my farm. With only 3 days left of spring, the plan was to spend every waking moment fishing to prepare myself for buying summer crops. And of course, I also used a good bit of time clearing out the lower part of my farm so we would have some good space to plant our seeds. This entailed the mind-numbing task of laying out paths and sprinklers and hoeing the ground in that dumb pattern that speedrunners say is actually quite easy, but to my brain is in fact very confusing. I spent literally the entire day doing this, and by the end, my brain was mush. But the summer was fast approaching, so I got right to it the next day, gathering the materials for scarecrows and scattering them around randomly. To be honest, I could not be bothered to calculate where they should actually go, and by 10 o'clock, I had a small army of straw men ready to defend my crops. And since it was raining, I decided to head into town for the evening in the hopes of catching a bunch of catfish to make, and I'm quoting from my notes here, Bombo money. And on my 4th catfish, I was plagued once again by the never-ending fish reel sound. I love my life. I kept my fishing streak up the following day until I got bored and returned home, only to find that my horse stable had actually finished, and I decided to name our new horse iPad. With summer finally upon us, I began the grueling task of rehoeing all the tiles and then headed to Pierre's to buy a bunch of blueberry seeds. It was only after planting them all, I made the sudden realization that despite my extensive farming preparation, I hadn't actually made any sprinklers. But instead of worrying about the absurd amount of watering I was subjecting myself to, I went back to Pierre's and bought 39 more blueberry seeds, which admittedly took the rest of the day to water. Clearly, I'd bitten off a bit more blueberries than I could chew, but I kept chewing, spending the next couple days watering crops, mining ore, smelting bars, and crafting sprinklers. Slowly, after days and days of this torture, I was able to automate the majority of my watering duties. And to celebrate, I headed to Robbins and painted my horse stable all black in the spirit of the iPad. Now that I was catching up in the automated blueberry watering department, life was just too easy, I guess, so I headed to Pierre's and bought 29 more blueberry seeds, which essentially meant more sprinklers, more smelting, and more work. At this point, I'd been grinding for blueberries and sprinklers for so long, and frankly, I deserved a break, so I rode iPad down to the beach and fished for a while. And oh my gosh, I caught so many good fish. By 3 p.m., I'd made almost $4,000, but as is tradition apparently, the fish reel sound got stuck again. I am so tired. The next day, I returned to the mines refreshed with the goal of gathering more resources for sprinklers, but also to get down as far as possible. At around noon, I managed to reach floor 80 and got pretty far in the fire levels too, even with my garbage basic sword, and honestly it's all thanks to the fact that I can swing it myself. Auto attack can suck it. By day 37, I had fished so much that I'd accrued almost $10,000, and with our next goal, the minecarts being only $15,000, I figured that another juicy day of fishing could get us there no problem. So I went down to the ocean and got fishing, raking in over $4,000 from Willie and even catching some to toss into the fishing bin. All the while, the fishing reel persisted. But with the funds now secured, I headed to Joja. And we have the mine carts. Let's go! Our second upgrade for mobility and transportation. This is such a successful farm, honestly. Yeah, luau time, baby. I did not bring anything of substance. Oh, I probably should have saved a super cucumber. Instead, I just have this tilapia, so see how that goes. Honestly, I have no interest in speaking with anybody. Just please enjoy my fish. All right, let's get this thing going. I'm actually a little scared. The governor always hates what I bring. I trust that you all put high quality ingredients in the pot this year. He's tasting the soup. I'm scared. Ew, I hate that slurp noise. Yes, that's a very pleasant soup. The produce from this valley never disappoints. You know, I couldn't ask for anything more, probably. After a successful luau and a slurp from my smoothie, which coincidentally looked a lot like the soup in the pot, I called it a night, satisfied that I can now call Robin and George my best and only friends in the town. What an odd... group of people. For real, nobody in the town likes me, which is why after more than 3 weeks of owning a phone, I finally got my first phone call. Congratulations, you have a $10,000 Joja rebate waiting for you. Please mail your credit card number to 133 North Gunger Street, Dusu City to receive your rebate. Is this a spam call? Disgruntled by this experience, I spent the next couple days in the mines to gather more resources for sprinklers, taking the minecart home for the first time, which was such a momentous occasion. Even more momentous still was our first big blueberry harvest. The satisfaction I experienced blooping all those blueberries after grinding for sprinklers was beyond words. We weren't quite done yet though, no. Because after selling our harvest, not only did I craft 5 more sprinklers, but I also did a bit of fishing on the farm, and those fish combined with our blueberry money led to some massive profits. This made me incredibly happy, and it also motivated me to keep expanding our sprinkler empire so it would ultimately cover the entire farm. But to do that, we'd need a lot more coal and iron ore, so I rode iPad to the mines and ended off the day having gotten a decent amount of both. I did a lot of smelting and sprinkler placing the next day, and just looking at the scale of this farm, I knew I'd be getting some incredible profits from pumpkin harvests in the fall. But in my time off, I tried to find other small sources of revenue, and I realized there was probably some good forage in the tide pools that would sell for a decent amount. So I cut down a bunch of trees, getting the wood I needed to fix the bridge, and picked up all the coral to sell to Willy, which brought me to foraging level 5. After a fun UFO sighting, I awoke to our second round of blueberries to harvest and reached farming level 5, for which I chose the tiller profession, which increases the value of my crops. I was going all in on the farming, honestly. Like, have you guys ever heard of growing crops in this game? I just discovered it. It's kinda busted. Like, with all the fishing and blueberrying I'd been doing, I had more than enough to repair the bus stop, so the next day I went to see my pal Morris. And we have the bus! With that, our range of mobility would expand all the way to Calico Desert, which was incredibly exciting. But now, our final goal loomed over us, and it was the most difficult of all: unlocking and fixing the boat to Ginger Island. And so, my focus turned toward making enough money to complete all of the Joja upgrades and unlocking the boat. To accomplish this, I somehow dove even further into the crop grind by clearing out all the trees and rocks on the farm and marking as many sprinkler locations as possible. Like, I swear, I'm gonna fill this entire farm with basic sprinklers and be the richest farmer in all the land. Using my precious blueberry money, I took the first step toward Joja completion and spent everything on our favorite and most useful upgrade: panning! It just doesn't get any better. But I wasn't gonna stop at just unlocking the boat to Ginger Island. There was more mobility to be had in this world. First thing the next morning, I headed to Robin's to buy some path recipes, and you may be thinking, Charlie, path recipes? Why do we care about path recipes? And to that I say, paths actually increase your speed, and given that we're all about mobility and efficiency on this farm, they're actually very necessary. I even extended my little highway into the bus stop area and capped off the day by giving my egg hunt hat to iPad so I could wear the funny copper pan. With the fall season fast approaching though, I desperately needed to get back on the sprinkler grind, so I headed to the mines in order to stock up on copper. Ultimately, I finished the day with 135 copper ore, which I was able to craft into a bunch of sprinklers. As I placed them down on the bottom left part of the farm, I noticed a shiny little spot in the water and decided, you know what, fine, let's give panning a try. And I actually managed to get gold ore and some iron ore and coal right after. Like, what? Is panning actually fun and low-key kind of useful? After my panning epiphany, my epiphany, if you will, I kind of wanted to carve out a day to just pan, so after selling my blueberries, I walked along all the rivers in Pelican Town in search of shiny spots, but I literally couldn't find any. Like, how does one pan? I just gave up and watched the train pass through town. It's another form of transportation, I guess, but I was actually pretty disappointed about my panning failure. I did actually spot a panning shiny as I was leaving Clint's the next day, which was just so fun. But as cool as it was, the best way to get ore and coal was unfortunately still in the mines, so I put my copper pan back on my head and did some more boring mining before attending the Moonlight Jelly Festival. And just like that, we had reached the first day of fall. To start us off, I cleared out all my dead crops, which was mildly upsetting, and then headed to Pierre's to buy as many cranberry seeds as I could, which was actually only 75. Once I'd placed those down, I realized I didn't have nearly enough seeds to plant in all the sprinkler spots I prepared. So the next day, I headed to the river to catch as many fish as I could in order to fund our cranberry and pumpkin endeavors. From my full day of fishing, I'd managed to catch a bunch of valuable fish, but I also reached fishing level 10, which allowed me to increase the price of fish by 50%. I mean, with another full day of fishing ahead of me, and probably more to come, that angler profession was really gonna come in handy. By the afternoon, I had my pockets full of fish and a pile of algae on the floor for Vincent, and with all the money I'd amassed, I headed back to Pierre's the next day. From all this hard work, I had managed to get 91 whole pumpkin seeds, which was actually much more than I expected. Immediately, I planted them all in my super optimal farm layout, and I mean, come on now, have you ever seen me run a farm this productive? I was kinda killing it, you have to admit. To celebrate, I figured I could reward myself with a fun trip to Skull Caverns using our most recent transportation method. But before I could do that, I needed to reach the bottom of the regular mines and get the skull key. Before I could even think about the skull key though, I desperately needed to get myself a better weapon, and luckily I managed to make it all the way to floor 90, getting the obsidian blade. With my new weapon equipped, I dedicated the next couple of days to reaching the bottom of the mines, quickly getting to level 100 and chomping on that star drop. I forgot I said my mind is filled with thoughts of Steve Jobs. I don't know anything about Steve Jobs. And I quickly reached floor 115 the day after. Between my quick progress in the mines and the beauty of my first cranberry harvest, I was just so overjoyed, and I decided to fetch Linus's berry basket just for fun, so we could all enjoy the wonders of picking fruit. Except I guess I kept it in my inventory and didn't actually give it back to him, so whoopsies. In any case, I managed to reach floor 120 of the mines that evening, getting myself the skull key, and after running over Sebastian on the way home, I bought some more pumpkin seeds and headed to bed, just enjoying all the cranberry money coming my way. But as I've learned in this playthrough, instead of hoarding the money I'd made, it was just a much better idea to go and buy 141 more pumpkin seeds to plant, so that's just what I did for the entire rest of the day. It's a rough life out here in the valley. With all that farming out of the way though, I set my sights on Calico Desert, and with just a couple granola bars, some coconuts I found on the ground, and a copper pan on my head, I entered Skull Caverns for the first time. I collected a decent amount of materials, including my first iridium ore, and then returned home safely to smelt some iron bars for a much needed pickaxe upgrade. If I wanted to make any decent progress in Skull Caverns, our dinky copper pickaxe just would not do the trick, so with our iron bars ready, I headed straight to Clint and purchased the upgrade. While my pickaxe was being worked on, there honestly wasn't all that much for me to do in the meantime. I pretty much spent the next 3 days fishing and harvesting crops, and once my steel pickaxe was finally ready, I cleared out my inventory and headed to Skull Caverns again just for fun. I did end up finding some pretty good stuff, but in all honesty, I was already going to be so rich from my cranberries and pumpkins that it really did not matter. At this point, we were almost 3/4 of the way through our 100 days, and I realized that if I wanted to get the boat to Ginger Island, not only did I need to finish the Joja quests, but I also had to collect all the materials needed to actually fix the boat. So this essentially meant I needed some iridium bars, batteries, and a lot of hardwood. Hardwood wouldn't be so bad as long as I headed to the secret woods regularly to collect some, but there was a very large problem that I hadn't yet realized until this exact day. The batteries. The only way to get batteries in the game is either to craft up lightning rods that will produce batteries during thunderstorms, or to get them as a mob drop from iridium bats, both of which involved a fair bit of RNG. But after my dinosaur egg in the beginning of the playthrough, I was confident that RNGesus had taken my wheel, and I began the task of gathering some bat wings so I could craft the lightning rods and just pray. And by the end of the day, I'd managed to get a dozen bat wings, which was pretty good. The morning of day 73 was a big one because it was our first pumpkin harvest. After selling them all, I headed to the mines once again to gather bat wings and quartz for the lightning rods, and oh my gosh, I made so much money. Like, I was literally in disbelief. I'm always so poor in my Stardew farms, and all I had to do was grow crops? Like, wow. Who knew? With my newfound riches, I'd managed to unlock the greenhouse, and I also crafted the lightning rods I needed for the batteries and placed them in the front yard. This meant that we had one final Joja upgrade left, that being the bridge repair. So after offloading a bunch of my harvest onto Pierre, which probably bankrupted him, honestly, and buying the backpack upgrades for fun, I headed to Joja and purchased the final community development project. And I still had so much money and a ton of materials from clearing out the farm, so I used the surplus to purchase a coop at Robin's for our dino egg, and then added highways throughout the town to further increase our speed and mobility. And as I was placing down stone paths, I was surprised to see that the Joja warehouse had completed. So glad I was able to fund the construction of this disgusting blue Chungo building and ruin the town. I mean, hey, free soda though. With all the Joja upgrades unlocked, my focus was solely on getting the 5 batteries for Willy's boat. The thing was though, I really couldn't rely on the chance that it might thunder before the end of the season, so I had to start planning for the worst case scenario, which entailed an upgraded pickaxe. Because if it really never thundered, I would need the right tools to get past floor 51 in Skull Caverns. Around there is where the iridium bats spawn, and each one has a 5% chance of dropping batteries. This would be my only hope. The forecast the next morning said rain, which was definitely worrisome, but my brain was quickly distracted by our biggest pumpkin harvest yet. Not only was it incredibly satisfying to harvest them all, but it was even more gratifying to sell them for an absurd amount of money to Pierre, who, let's face it, cannot be in a great financial position between the takeover of Joja and the devastating payouts to Mobile Farm. As the days went on, I continued chopping hardwood for Willy's boat, and once the coop finished upgrading, I saw Star Dino Egg in the incubator. With that cooking in the background, I completed the final pumpkin and cranberry harvest of the season, and then returned Linus's berry basket with 3 days left of fall. Sorry, bud. No berries for you. I made a tidy $100,000 from Pierre that day, and also picked up my gold pickaxe from Clint's, which was absolutely perfect timing. Now that I had all my tools, I could head to Skull Cavern and really start to grind for the iridium bars I needed for the boat repair. Funny enough, on a random treasure floor, I actually got a blue cowboy hat, and for you OGs out there that have watched my very first 100 Days series, you'll know that we're really going back to my roots with this one. I couldn't not put it on. In the end, I managed to gather 24 pieces of iridium and called it there, but as I was getting ready for bed, I received my second phone call ever, and this time it was actually from a real person. Or like, not a person, but a mouse. Yeah, the Hat Mouse called me at 1:20 a.m. Early the next morning, I headed to Robin's and changed my upgraded coop, painting it black to match the stable. But since it was a lucky day, I decided to spend another afternoon collecting iridium in Skull Caverns, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I ended up on an infested floor and so nearly died to this serpent. I was like a baby's breath away from death. It was actually horrifying. But as the days passed, I faithfully continued checking the weather every single day with absolutely no sign of thunder. I figured I could stop by the traveling cart and keep an eye out for batteries there, and miraculously, there actually was one, which was so clutch. Our first battery obtained. However, it was the first of winter, and thunderstorms were no longer an option. So, with a little more than 2 weeks left to go, I knew I couldn't rely on the luck of the traveling cart to get the 4 remaining batteries. I had to put the fate of Willy's boat in my own hands, which meant converting all my ore into bombs and getting to those iridium bats in Skull Caverns. I warped to the desert and started setting off bombs willy-nilly. Willy? You get it? That's a very good one. Even though it was a good luck day, the staircases were coming slowly, but at one point, a barrage of enemies swooped in and... Holy... I can't take the combat! Yeah, not my finest moment. I lost, let's see, all of my bombs, which was all of my copper and iron ore. I could not bear to live with those consequences, so I reset the day. And I mean, this one went a lot better than the last, seeing as I actually made it home alive. Honestly, you can only go up from there. I was still desperate for those batteries though, and if I was going to be making trips down that low in the caverns, I needed to make them count. And the one thing that would ensure I did was the burglar ring, which makes it so that monsters have a greater chance of dropping loot. In order to obtain it, I needed to kill a total of 500 dust sprites for the monster slayer goal, and I'd only killed 282 so far. So I unfortunately spent the next couple days just slaughtering these little guys. Along the way, I reached level 10 mining and chose the prospector profession, hoping that I might be able to get some extra coal to craft into bombs down the road. And by the 3rd day of our soot sprite slaughter, I had managed to reach the monster slayer goal. We had also rolled around to another Friday, so I made an obligatory visit to the traveling cart, and although we weren't as lucky as the first time around, I was so happy about receiving the burglar ring that I honestly wasn't that upset about it. And now that I had the ring, I was not messing around anymore. So with a bunch of coffee, salads, stone for staircases, and way too many bombs to possibly be legal, I warped to the desert twice by accident. Ignore that. And then began what I hoped would be our most successful Skull Cavern run yet. I was making good time, and at 3:30 I stumbled across a shaft that brought me to floor 52, which meant that from there on out, I'd be on the lookout for iridium bats. No luck on the first one, or the second, or even the third, but I persisted on, and with only 1 hour left in the day, I actually managed to get our second battery. I was so freaking excited, and I knew I wasn't gonna make it to bed alive, but I happily passed out near the bus stop, knowing I was 1 battery closer to Willy's boat. That run had expended a lot of materials though, so I spent the entirety of day 91 just restocking and preparing food and bombs for our next lucky day. And although the next day was a good luck day, it was about to get even better because using a prismatic shard that I had found during an expedition a couple days ago, I was able to get my grubby little hands on the Galaxy Sword. With the help of our new and incredibly good weapon, I was able to find our third battery pack. Look how excited I look. And although that was it for today's battery count, I did get a treasure room with, 5 cranberry sauces. So thank you, Mr. Chi. It was another bad luck day on day 93, which meant more preparation, crafting bombs, and buying salad for when the next good luck day rolled around. We didn't have to wait long though, and soon enough, I was back in the caverns looking for more iridium bats. And honestly, I came across so many iridium bats, but to my deep and utter disappointment, none of them dropped batteries. I did find another treasure floor though, with corn seeds, so helpful. And I even got to floor 122, but ultimately... Wait. Let me explain. The reason I died is because I was standing in front of the staircase, and I knew that if I knew that if I was standing in front of the staircase and I tried to eat something, I would end up going up the staircase. Harvey, I swear to God. I swear to God, Harvey. Don't you dare. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But I swear I'm not bad at the game. Following this crushing defeat, it was yet another prep day, which meant bombs, coffee, and salad. And although the day after that was a neutral luck day, I figured I'd give it a shot, killing so many freaking bats in the process, and yet no batteries. Luckily, with only 4 days left in our 100 days, the spirits were in good humor, so I warped straight to the desert in search of our 2 remaining batteries. I rushed through the first 50 floors until I was in iridium bat territory, and just like last time, with only half an hour left in the day, I managed to get another battery pack and then immediately warped home. But the end was nigh, and I desperately wanted that final battery to unlock the boat. The luck was not looking great for the day, and the traveling merchant wasn't selling it, and honestly, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to get it. Nevertheless, I continued on doing my skull cavern prep with the hope that we'd have one last shot tomorrow, and miraculously, day 99 was a lucky day. I immediately used my desert warp totem, chugged a coffee, and then got to work, reaching the iridium bats in record time, and on floor 75, I got the final battery. That was it. 5 batteries for Willie's boat repair. With all the iridium ore I'd been collecting during my skull cavern run, smelting the iron bars wasn't a problem at all, and as if things couldn't get any better, our dinosaur hatched. After careful deliberation, I decided to name it Android to offset all of the Apple products on the farm. See, I'm not biased. I don't have food for Android, and yes, he will starve, but I swear, I'm not biased. With the batteries and iridium bars secured, the only thing left was to gather hardwood. So in our final hours on mobile farm, I rode iPad to the secret woods day after day, chopping down the stumps until I had the 200 hardwood I needed. And after weeks in the mines grinding for batteries, chopping hardwood, and smelting iridium bars, we finally had all the materials ready for... Willie's not open yet. We had all the materials ready for repairing the boat, our final mode of transportation. As we slept peacefully, the boat was repaired, and while the sun rose on what was technically day 109, but we won't think about that, I rode iPad down the highway toward our final frontier, waiting patiently for a couple hours until finally, here we go. Hello, William. Thanks so much. She looks good as new. Beautiful. The final form of mobility. We have finally unlocked it. That was a harrowing journey. I will not lie. Wow, this is by far the most mobile we've been the whole time. Look at how much ground we're covering. Or like water. Here we are. The final destination. We have made it to Ginger Island. And just like that, we had made it to Ginger Island, which caps off our technically 110 days in Stardew Valley Mobile. We managed to unlock every form of mobility, including our horse iPad, the minecarts, the bus stop, and ultimately Willie's boat. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. I would absolutely love to have you here. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Bye!